So Joe Rogan had Gad Saad, am I saying that right? Gad Saad, whatever, on his podcast. And this guy, Gad Saad, he's been like a intellectual dark web adjacent type figure for quite a while. That's how I would describe him. But a lot of people point to this video he made a while ago where he basically kind of admits, like, yeah, I'm Mossad, or I was Mossad, right? For those of you who don't know, that's Israeli CIA. Okay. Kind of sketchy. Okay. But so he comes out and says that. Now, Joe, the episode before this, apparently had on that former CIA agent that he has on all the time. Something Baker, I think his name is. And by the way, even Joe acknowledges. Former CIA agent. Like, really? Really? Okay. So, I don't know, man. You have back-to-back a CIA dude and then a Mossad dude, right? And then now let's get into some of the parts that everybody's focusing on. So, let's start with this. They're talking about anti-Semitism. I couldn't bring myself to listen to the whole podcast, but apparently that was a large part of the podcast, talking about anti-Semitism. And they dropped this gem on us.
What's crazy to me is, regardless of how you feel about how the Israeli military and the army is pursuing the war in Gaza, regardless of that, the blatant, just out in the open anti-Semitism that we see today is like nothing I've ever seen before. Like roaches coming out of the woodwork. Like what? Like you see it all over social media, and it's like this. If this was September and not October, like if this is just, you would be shunned. Everybody would be like, "This is horrible. How the fuck could you say this? How are you? You're openly anti-Semitic. You're openly blaming the Jews for all the world's problems. This is crazy. This is Nazi shit." And yet you're seeing it everywhere now. When those teachers were in front of Congress, when those principals of those universities were in front of Congress, and they were saying that it's not harassment to say death to the Jews unless it's actionable, which is the craziest mental verbal gymnastics I have ever heard anyone say that's in that position, in a position of being the head of Harvard. It was so crazy to watch. It's so crazy. It's almost like we live in an alternative timeline. Like we entered into a new dimension. Like in our sleep, we woke up, but we're in a new place.
So first of all, let's point out, when the head of the universities were making that point, they were literally citing the guidelines and parameters of free speech on college campuses. That is literally what they were doing. So in other words, the Supreme Court decided in the Skokie case, it is even legal in the U.S. for Nazis, neo-Nazis, to march through a predominantly Jewish town and do their protest, as long as they don't do violence. That's what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court said that's what free speech means. It even protects speech that you hate. It even protects disgusting speech. In this country, we don't even have laws against hate speech. It's not a thing. This is what the First Amendment is all about. This is what free speech is all about. Okay? So that's the first point. The second point is, the answer was, hey, if there's a direct threat of violence against a Jewish kid, that's unacceptable, because that is not protected speech. Direct threats of violence are not protected speech. But the point they made was 100% the legal standard and how it should be. You're allowed to say things even that are grotesque as long as there's not a direct threat of violence. So I don't know why now all of a sudden people have turned on free speech. And by the way, let's be clear, there were no actual examples of people on these college campuses saying death to the Jews or gas the Jews or saying anything along those lines. That didn't happen. That was a bullshit hypothetical brought up. The real reason people are pissed off, there's a bunch of Zionists that are mad that kids are saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and that they're saying intifada. That's why they're mad. And then they make a stretch of an argument that, oh, when they say those things, they actually mean kill all the Jews. No, they don't. You just made that the fuck up. Okay, so that's addressing that point of it. Now, look, we gave Joe credit a couple weeks ago or a month ago or whatever it was when he had on Coleman Hughes, and Coleman Hughes was defending savage, barbaric Israeli war crimes brazenly, and Joe was like, he wasn't really buying it. He was like, what the fuck are you saying, man? It's like they're doing a lot of bad shit over there. So we gave him credit for that. But look, on this one, let's keep it real. The whole notion of this massive spike in anti-Semitism, that's totally made up. It's totally made up. The thing that people cite when they talk about this is an ADL report. And the ADL reports, there's been an over 300% increase in anti-Semitism since October 7th. Go look at the methodology. Go look at the methodology. Go look at some of the examples they cite. They include people saying free Palestine as an anti-Semitic incident. Their definition of anti-Semitism is now so broad that they include anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. Well, what's anti-Zionism? Zionism is the belief in the right to a Jewish state, a Jewish ethno-state and theocracy. So if you say, hey, I'm against a Jewish ethno-state and theocracy because I'm against all ethno-states and theocracies, they go, I don't care, you're an anti-Semite. That means you hate all Jews because you're anti-Zionist. So in other words, the ADL is lying. They are lying about this massive explosion in anti-Semitism. Now, by the way, even if you were to say, hey, maybe there's a small increase in anti-Semitism. Well, gee, I wonder why that would be. Could it be because Netanyahu, the head of Israel, comes out and says, we are representing all Jews, and then they do a genocide? If you're saying we represent all Jews, and then you guys go and do a genocide, how do you think some people are going to react to that? They're going to go, oh, you're telling me the Jews are responsible for this genocide. And then there's going to be that reaction among some small percentage, right? So the real anti-Semitic position is to say all Jews are responsible for the actions of Israel. They're not. In fact, many of the people leading the movements against Israel's genocide are Jews. If not now, not in our name, Jewish Voice for Peace. Many of these, they're Jewish-led organizations where they are anti-Zionist Jews saying, hey, motherfucker, don't tie me in with your carpet bombing of babies. Okay, don't tie me in with that. So, Jesus Christ, this is crazy to watch, bro. It's such a bogus narrative. Isn't it interesting that the cries and the shrieks and the moans and the bitching about the rise in anti-Semitism, that perfectly coincides with Israel increasing their atrocities and their war crimes in Gaza? CNN just came out and reported, I'm shocked that they had the balls to do this. Israel has literal concentration camps. And the pictures coming out of there look like they're coming out of Nazi Germany. Right? You want to talk about Nazi comparisons? Let's talk about that vis-a-vis Israel and Netanyahu and the IDF and the war crimes that they're committing. So, would you look at that? At the same time, day after day, we learned about another hospital bombed and another school bombed and another UN building bombed and a continued medieval siege that cuts off food, fuel, water, electricity to 2.3 million people. At the same time, all that's going on. Oh, look, more carpet bombs that targeted toddlers. Oh, look, 16,000 kids dead. Oh, look, 10,000 women dead. Oh, look, 40,000 Palestinians. At the same time that's happening, they go on the offense by flipping it and saying, you're all just anti-Semites for the criticism of Israel. That's what you are. You're all just anti-Semites. And then that becomes a narrative. We're really talking about an increase in anti-Semitism at a time when there's an annihilation campaign against Palestinians, a genocide unfolding right in front of our eyes, killing civilians, women and children, on purpose, and we're supposed to have a conversation about the feelings of college kids? By the way, a lot of the incidents they point to are totally fake also. You remember the dumb bitch who said, I got poked in the eye with a Palestinian flag. She was a liar. Video came out. She lied. She's a fucking liar. She's also the same bitch who did they changed the name of the Israeli couscous. They dropped Israeli from it. What an outrage. Turns out that wasn't true either. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? I don't know. It turns out if you talk to a CIA guy and then you talk to a Mossad guy, you get some bogus fucking narratives that start to come out, feeding into the hysteria. God, man. It's... All right, I got one more clip for you. So here, Rogan's going to talk about the Trump cases.
Think about what's going on with your boyfriend Trump these days.
What? Oh, the trials?
The trials.
Fascinating. You know, I had Mike Baker on, who was formerly a CIA operative, formerly. But we were talking about that no one's ever been charged for something like that before. No one's ever been prosecuted for something like that before. Certainly no political opponents.
Something like what? I believe there were 91 criminal charges. Now there's 88, right? Never been charged for what? Which one of the 88 crimes has somebody never been charged for? Which one?
My thing is the danger, the people that are on the left that don't understand that now you set a precedent. You set a terrible precedent. And if Trump does get in office, what is to stop him from going after all of his political enemies in the same exact way? Are we going to do this now? Every time someone's in a position of power, whether it's a governor or whether it's a president or what have you, when they have a political opponent, they will hire people to go after that political opponent and trump up, no pun intended, a bunch of bullshit charges and drag them through the courts so that the people that only have a peripheral understanding of what's going on, oh my God, he's a criminal. Keep that criminal out of the White House. Like, okay.
Do you think a lot of people who historically had been against Trump are now honest enough to see what a sham this whole thing is and are revising their positions? Or do you think
there's quite a few, yes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but it takes a lot of bravery to do that. And it depending upon your social environment, there's a lot of people that just can't step outside the lines of whatever the ideology their neighborhood is attached to, their community is attached to.
You want to talk about setting a precedent? What sort of precedent would it set if somebody who's president commits 88 crimes and gets away with all of them? The precedent is, if you're powerful, you just get away with whatever the fuck you want to do. Doesn't matter how brazenly illegal it is. That's the precedent I'm afraid of. This idea of, oh my God, what if they start going after every powerful person? Yummy in my tummy, y'all. What are we talking about here? They should have thrown the book at George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, waging illegal and offensive wars against countries that didn't attack us, destroying the Middle East and leading to the rise of ISIS, doing torture at Guantanamo Bay and Abu Ghraib, killing hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians and displacing millions. We'd throw a fucking party if those motherfuckers get arrested and get charged for their various crimes. We would throw a party if Hillary Clinton got arrested and charged for her various crimes. Libya, Syria, Iraq. Joe Biden, same thing. Don't get me started on his ass either. Arming and funding a genocide as we speak. I want to set the precedent of holding rich people accountable, holding powerful people accountable, holding politicians accountable for their various crimes. And right now they get away with all their crimes. Their war crimes and their crimes of corruption, which they get away with day in and day out. The whole system is rotten and broken and corrupt and disgusting. And they all get away with their shit. The precedent I'm afraid of setting is letting all of these powerful people get away with all their crimes. By the way, if you think the charges are trumped up, again, no pun intended, which one of the 88 charges is trumped up? Or is it all of them? Walk me through each one and tell me why you think each one is bogus. Were the fraud charges bogus? The insurance fraud and tax fraud and business fraud and all that stuff, was that bogus? Because it's already found he's liable for that. He already has to pay out hundreds of millions of dollars for that. So maybe you think, yeah, I guess the fraud ones are real. I guess Trump was a shady-ass businessman cutting all these different corners. Okay, maybe you think the fraud charges are real. Well, what's the problem with the Georgia case? Or what's the problem with the Jack Smith case? You know they have emails of Trump's team internally. They refer to their own plot as a fraudulent or fake elector scheme. They knew they were committing fraud doing this. They knew, hey, we're going to say we won even though we know we didn't, and we're going to have an alternate slate of electors, and we're going to try to force the other politicians, twist their arms to not accept the results of the previous election. This is all a coup plot laid out for us in black and white. What part of that is a trumped-up charge? How is it trumped up? In what way, shape, or form is it trumped up? It's not even close to trumped up. Throw the book at all of them, man. They commit crimes and get away with it. I want to stop that. And Trump's on the top of that fucking list. His crimes are fucking endless. Oh no, we'll set the precedent of going after powerful people. Shit. Let me get to the front of the line because I want to make sure Netanyahu is in that list. Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, Biden, Trump, the various Republican politicians calling for nuking Gaza. Jesus Christ. Anyway, turns out when you talk to CIA and Mossad, they're very big on let the powerful people commit their crimes. Oh, I don't know. Maybe that's because the CIA, all they do is crimes. Maybe it's because that's their role. Remember Mike Pompeo, who was the head of the CIA, coming out saying, yeah, we lie, we cheat, we stole. That was our job at the CIA. Turns out the people who run the CIA, who do crimes for a living, are kind of on the side of letting powerful people get away with their crimes. What a surprise. All right, guys, that's the show. I love you all very much. Everybody do me a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that fun stuff. Click that bell icon so you get a notification every time a video drops. And that's all I got for y'all today, man. I love y'all, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Peace. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.